Hi everyone, it's the Assyrian priestess with you. I hope this finds you well. Today we will be doing a tarot talk, which will be a short form lecture on the Devil card in the tarot. So here on the table I have multiple artwork and representations of the devil from different decks. I think part of why I love being a deck collector is for the educational element. So we have from the Inner Child cards, which is a fairy tale tarot, we have the Big Bad Wolf. From the Babylonian tarot, we have Lamashtu. From the Tantric Dakini, we have the Ally. From Mary L, we have the Purple Devil card. Beautiful artwork, would you agree? We have the traditional Rider Waite, the Thoth deck Devil. We have from the Dark Goddess Tarot Corruption, which is the Dark Goddess Tlatzolteotl from the Aztec tradition. And from Chris Madsen's Three Red Moons, we have the Serpent. So I'm going to be referring to my notes. So if you hear some paper shuffling, pay it no mind. I do handwrite my notes. It's part of my practice. So after the Death card in the Journey of the Fool through the major arcana, and then the Recovery and Alchemy of the Temperance card, we meet the Devil. Carnal desire becomes the driver of the will. So in the Temperance card, we had fire and water, yin and yang, masculine and feminine come together and transform the person who has had to face the scourge of death and time. And so now the journey, the path, leads us to these elements being incarnated into flesh. So in the Temperance card, it's spiritual. It's a spiritual and psychological transformation. The Devil card is a physical, real world 3D experience. Now, in the Thoth deck, you will see that the goat, the ram, that you will meet in the traditional Rider Waite, which is the Baphomet. It's a type of satyr with an inverted pentagram, and the inverted pentagram is nothing to fear. It is the inversion of the will, not to spirit, but to earth. So when the pentagram points upwards, it is as above, and when it points downwards, it's so below. But there is a reference to the underworld, definitely. Let's not pretend. This figure has wings and the background is black. So there is definitely a reference to the underworld, an underworldly kind of descent. You're about to face something about yourself and about the other, which may or may not be pleasant. And I mentioned the other because this is a relational card. You can see that the devil figure in the Rider Waite has a masculine and feminine figure chained to each other, and he's almost like the puppet master. Now, interestingly, the numerology of the Devil card is 1 + 5 or 10 + 5, and that equals 6, which is the Lover's card. So this is almost like the shadow element of the Lover's card, which is nothing new, but a lesson we must learn. And for some of us, over and over again, because the cycle is a spiral. And if you're interested in underworldly descent, kind of processes and what happens in the underworld and the purpose of the underworld, I do teach a course on my Patreon page. It's $3 a month, and you can work through the course as fast or as slow as you want, but you'll go through the 7 gates of the underworld with the goddess Ishtar and the demons and devils she meets along the way. Now, in the Thoth deck, you will see that same goat-headed ram figure, and it appears almost like he's driving the chariot. Although it's reference to other things here, which you're going to have to use your imagination to figure that one out. But it's almost like here that your desire is the driver of where you're going. So when you meet the devil card, you're going to really be forced to face what really drives you, for better or for worse. And it reminds me of Crowley. So Crowley was the designer of the Thoth deck. Frida Harris drew the art, but the thinking was Crowley. And one of Crowley's most famous quotes is, "Doest thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." And I feel like that saying really links us to the devil card. So the devil card is not a moral judgment on what drives you or what drives others. It's simply a very real world reflection of the truth of desire and what drives people. And so if that appears to be ugly, well, do the math. Some of our carnal desires can actually destroy us. It's also about the will being the driver is also about consequences. So the devil card for me, 100%, is about when we make deals with devils because we are set to gain something in return. It's a price that we're willing to pay. Now, beware, because the devil won't always show you the fine print, right? And this card reminds me of, there is a Nick Cave song. Nick Cave's an Australian artist. And in one of his albums called The Murder Ballads, there's a pretty famous song called Red Right Hand. And the story is about this young guy who needs a loan and needs some cash and needs a car and needs stuff. And he can't get it in the traditional means. And so he meets this shadowy figure who says, yeah, I can get you the money. But hidden in his coat is a red right hand, which of course alludes to that this man is actually a devious person, probably a murderer, probably on the dark side of the law. But it's almost like we know that we're making this deal, but we need to, between a rock and a hard place, or we're set to gain something. And so we shake hands with the devil. So tread carefully, but be wise. Easier said than done. So really the question when you get the devil card is, what is the one thing that you really want from this situation that you would pay a high price for? And so you've heard the saying rather, selling your soul to the devil, or just selling your soul, or being a sellout. And so we use this term to kind of explain when people don't stay true to themselves because they're set to gain a lot of money or a lot of fame. And so we quote unquote sell our souls because we're set to gain something we really want. But the price tag is our own reality, our own truth, our own authenticity. So everything that you learned in the Temperance card is up for grabs and could be destroyed. So in the New Testament, like a lot of people from the Christian tradition meet the devil in the New Testament. And there's a pretty infamous story. I shouldn't say infamous. There's a really popular story on the temptation of Christ, where the devil visits Christ when he is fasting in the desert. And the Christ at this point knows that he will be sacrificed for the greater good, as the story goes. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, please. And the devil says, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to go down the road of persecution and death and sorrow? I can give you everything you want and need. I will give you power. I will give you influence bigger and better than you've ever known. I will give you luxury. I will give you the influence and infamy that you seek. But of course, Christ says no, and he rebukes the devil. And so a lot of us are trained that, like, it's a dark energy that is trying to seduce you and tempt you in order to corrupt you. Because the bit that we don't see from that story is, what if the Christ does say yes? Then what? What is the price he'll have to pay? So the Christ, obviously being an ascended master and an enlightened being, knows that not is all as it seems. It's too good to be true, because he knows, I guess, the secrets of the universe and how this works. But you don't. We don't. So when we meet the devil, some of us will very quickly go, okay, I'm going to strike this deal. And, we think that we can outsmart the devil. And in our head, we're weighing up the pros and cons, like, oh, if I sign this contract, it might mean this, but the money's really good. Or it could be a new person who enters our lives and something seems a bit shady. Something's not completely right, but you're like, you know what? Stop complaining. Beggars can't be choosers. Whatever it is, we plea and we make bargains in our own mind. So you're not going to meet someone in the world who's going to say, hello there, little Red Riding Hood. I want to devour and destroy you. Let's make a deal. It's never clear. So another one of the hidden meanings is that there is a level of seduction here and a hidden agenda. It's a shadowy figure. Now in Chris Madsen's deck, it's actually an oracle deck called the Three Red Moons, but archetypally it's quite aligned. And we have the Serpent card, and we have this alluring, mysterious woman. Is she beautiful? Is she ugly? Is she a friend? Is she a foe? We can't tell, but wrapped around her is a serpent. And the serpent, of course, also goes to a biblical text where Eve is seduced by the serpent in the tree of life, who kind of whispers to her that if she eats from the apple, she will have all the mysteries of life and death bestowed upon her. In fact, she'll be as clever as God. And Eve takes a bite. She thinks it's a good deal. But what she finds out is that it was a poison apple. It was a trick. And she not only does not get given the knowledge of heaven and earth and everything in between, she's actually cast out and exiled. And the story goes. So there's definitely here a lot of references to older texts of Inanna Ishtar descending to the underworld, making deals with the devil, and then of course your own demise. So if you're interested in that, I actually recently produced a 3-part video essay series on the descent of Ishtar Inanna to the underworld and how it links to these archetypes, one being the devil card. Because the gatekeeper in the Inanna story is Namtar, who is a demon or a devil. Now, Eve eating from the apple of the tree reminds me a little bit of the story of the goddess Inanna getting the god Enki drunk so that she can steal the knowledge of life and death from him, which she, in that story, actually does do successfully. And what is wise about Inanna and what links us to the devil card is that being intoxicated, that because Enki makes this deal via being intoxicated, he loses in the bargain. And the drug and alcohol reference is very much in the devil card. So, the warning is, again, we think that we can control our consumption, and drugs and alcohol and addiction are, probably the most widespread prevalent cause of people completely losing control of their lives, of their families, of their money, of everything you work for, can absolutely destroy entire family networks. So it can definitely make reference to addiction, your own, or an addict that you're dealing with, and, not a very easy energy to grapple with, but one that must be grappled with, because if we're going to understand addiction and the price that and the deals people make, we understand that that's what it always is. It's a deal that someone thought they could make that they didn't realize that they would lose in the bargain, right? And so the addict now has this long journey of recovery if they even make it out alive, which is exactly what I teach in the descent myth, is that not everybody makes it out from the underworld alive. Now, the descent myth is also the goddess Ishtar. According to one Assyriologist, Ishtar descends into the underworld because she wishes to seize the throne of the goddess of death. Ishtar is actually a strategic goddess. She is the goddess of heaven and earth. She is the goddess of war and strategy. And Louise Pryke suggests that Ishtar actually doesn't think Ereshkigal is best suited to rule, and so she wants it for herself. But of course, she bargains, she makes a bargain with the wrong goddess, because Ereshkigal completely and utterly annihilates Inanna. And so here again, we have this above-below reference, and we have this kind of like making a deal that you're going to lose. Now, Inanna does make it out alive, but she makes it out alive with support. And so, interestingly, in the Tantric Dakini, they call the devil the ally. Now, another thing that a good reader would know is the card after is the Tower. And I think my next tarot talk might be the Tower, but stay tuned. Okay, let's keep going. If you're with me, please like, please comment. I really love hearing from you. So the Babylonian tarot shows the goddess, the demoness Lamashtu. Now, Lamashtu is the demoness in Assyrian mythology that is the cause of miscarriages, spontaneous abortions, babies dying in their cribs, and stillbirths. So if these misfortunes come upon a woman, it was said that the demoness that caused this was Lamashtu. And so in the Babylonian tarot, Sandra, Tabatha, Cicero has Lamashtu as the devil card, which is a devil of misfortune. Now, interestingly, to protect your family from Lamashtu coming, pregnant women and families who were expecting actually put another demon at their door, Pazuzu, to guard against Lamashtu, because the two didn't like each other apparently, and Pazuzu could outdo the force of Lamashtu, so it is said. And so the devils and the demons are not necessarily good or bad. It's more about, like, a better way to understand demon energy is chaos versus order. And so they come into our lives to cause chaos, ultimately so that we can be the one that restores order. Now, in the Dark Goddess Tarot, we have Tlazolteotl, who is the devourer. And the idea is that the devil card appears so that you learn how to annihilate or devour your base desires that rule you, especially if they rule you subconsciously. Because if your carnal desire is the driver of the will and you keep getting into trouble, and your trouble is, that story. So do you keep getting into bad relationships? Do you keep making bad business deals? Do you keep, what is it that is the repeating pattern here? Because another meaning of the devil card is personal demons. So you might be plagued with addictions of some sort, and it is up to you to conquer them. And so the devil appears as an opportunity for you to conquer them if you don't succumb to the devil's seduction or coercion. Okay, that's the task. Now, the devil is obviously, people hate getting the devil. I hate getting the devil in a reading. Absolutely. It's a scary, dark, ugly card. But if you fear the devil, it will gain ascendancy over you. And so even if you wish to study Assyrian demonology, which I also do teach, I wish I had more energy and time to invest in demonology courses, but they are found in a different tier in the Patreon school, but mostly in the Cult of Nergal and the Mystery School. It's very obscure and esoteric knowledge, so it's not for the faint-hearted or for everybody, but for those of you, I just thought I would mention it. So something needs to be faced and feared. Now, the Assyrians in antiquity did not fear devils or demons. They actually knew how to engage and quote-unquote work with them. Now, this does not suggest that they worshipped demons or anything like that, but they knew sort of what their force was about and how to manage and play with it. And so you will see a lot of castles and like massive buildings and even gates to the Assyrian cities actually full of demon images to protect against and repel against other more evil energy. So demons can be sort of for order or for chaos. I don't want to say for good or for evil, because I'm not certain that they're here to do good. But I am convinced that they help humans determine the difference between what is a chaotic energy in one's life and what is full of order. Now, I hope this isn't getting too long. I feel like it might be. So I think I spoke about those things. I'm just looking at my notes. Yeah. Okay, I think I've covered a lot of it. Yeah, so Tlazolteotl is the sin eater. She is death by lust. She is a mother of the Aztec gods, but she's here to purify. So you can see that she's the goddess of pestilence and disease, which interestingly, another reference is to the Assyrian god Nergal, who is the god of war, who descends to the underworld to rule with Ereshkigal. So Nergal is the consort of the goddess of the underworld. But interestingly, Nergal, who later was written as a demon and the father of demons, which is sort of like almost a very early Luciferian text, because Nergal was from the above world who becomes that fallen god who becomes the god of demons. So sounds familiar. He is the god of also pestilence and disease. So there's this understanding that disease is a purification. It's something to be overcome. Oh, excuse me. So yeah, just lastly, inner divination, I think what the devil card represents absolutely is lies, illusions, bondage, addictions, opposition, and your personal demons. It is a symbol of corruption, and it can be a living hell. Now, reversed, interestingly, according to Mary L. Tarot, and that's Marie Waite, it can actually be an energy to lighten up and to be a bit more playful, that you are too serious. Because let's not forget, the Capricorn rules the devil card, and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So this really is a little bit about right or wrong and choosing wisely. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. Please continue the chat in the comment. Otherwise, I will leave you, as always, with my love and courage until we meet again. Bye for now.